Alright, welcome back to our session of our online learning. So today we will learn on chapter 6, which is will be covering on the delivery part. So in this chapter, you will learn on how that use of speech delivery is a matter of non-verbal communication, and it is based on how you use your voice and body to convey the message expressed by your words. And there is a great deal of research showing that the speaker has a word that will be make your speech more powerful, and this will be influenced by your nonverbal communication. Okay, we will be move on to the next part. So in this chapter, your learning outcome will be all of this. So you first will learn on what is the good delivery. Second, the methods of delivery. Number 3, the speaker's voice. 4, the speaker's body. 5th, it's practicing delivery. And last but not least is answering audience questions. So in this chapter, you will learn on how you can use nonverbal communication to deliver your speeches effectively and to increase the impact of your verbal message. Alright, what is a good delivery? So a good delivery is not to call attention to itself, but it is convey to the speaker's ideas clearly, interestingly, and without distracting the audience. It combines a certain degree of formality and a conversation style such as directness and spontaneity, animations, vocal and facial expressiveness, and with a lively sense of communications. Speech delivery is an art and it is not a science. So you need a lot of practice and experience in order to master your speech. And one speech will not be the same with the other speaker. So you couldn't simply reuse the other people's style and then use it your own. It might be not working to you. What you have to do is you have to plan your first speech or your second and third. Concentrate on the basic elements such as speaking intelligibly, avoiding distracting mannerism, and establish eye contact with your listener. Of course, after you have mastered this, you need to polish your delivery to enhance the impact of your ideas. And then once you have feel comfortable with yourself during your public speaking, then you will be better when doing your delivery. We move on the methods of delivery. There are 4 methods of delivery which you will be explained further on the next slide. So first is reading from a manuscript. So reading from a manuscript is a speech that is written out from word for word. But this is the advantage when you rely on your script too much. Instead of sounding vibrant and conversational, you will become across more like a word or artificial, or in other words, you look so fake. In short, you will come across as reading to your listener rather than you have a conversation or conventional talk with them. So you have to avoid to look like a robot when you are giving a speech to your audience. So how you can improve when you don't have any choice? If you have to read from the manuscript, you have to practice a lot and to make sure the speech will be sound natural. And then of course you do not have you have to making us eye contact or establish an eye contact with your listener. So try while you reading your script, you also have to establish an eye contact with your listener. Number 2 is reciting from memory. So is this a process where you memorize speeches entirely from your memory, word by word? Be sure to memorize it so thoroughly that you will be able to concentrate on communicating with the audience and not trying to remember everything that you have written. So this will be ensure that you can have a more natural conversational quality with your audience. So mostly students are using this method when they are delivering their speech. Speaking impromptu. Speaking impromptu is a speech delivered with little or no immediate preparation. So if you have a chance, to be given a chance to talk without any preparations, or while you're in a meeting, your manager want you to deliver a presentations, you can use these four simple steps in order that to avoid yourself being embarrassed. So first, you have to state the point you are answering. So if there are previous speaker before you, so you have to reflect back what other speakers have mentioned. Number two, state the point you wish to make. Number three, support your point with appropriate statistic, example, or testimony. And lastly, summarize your point, and this will help you to remember what you want to say and will keep you from rambling or away from your path. So these four steps will be helping you if you have impromptu speaking. Sometimes we cannot avoid this in our life. There will be unexpected foreseen situation where you have to speak without any preparation ahead. Speaking extemporaneously. A carefully prepared and rehearsed speech that is presented from a brief set of notes. Extemporaneous speeches are prepared ahead of time, but the exact words are chosen at the moment of presentation. And this giving you advantage to give you more precise control over the thought and your language. It offers greater spontaneity and directness. It is very adaptable to a wide range of situations, and it also encourages conversational quality with your audience. So what is conversational quality? You're presenting a speech so it sounds spontaneous no matter how many times it has been erased. So you want to have a conversational quality when you are doing for your speaking. Okay, now we will talking on the speaker's voice. So in a speaker voice will be involved of volume, pitch, rate, pulse, vocal variety, pronunciation, articulation, and dialect. So let's cover one by one. So what is volume? So volume is the loudness or softness of the speaker voice. As for the pitch, it is the highest or loudness of the speaker voice. Sometimes in the pitch, we will using inflections, which is referring to the changes of pitch or tone of the speaker voice, or the one that we want to avoid is monotone, which is a voice in constant pitch or in a tone of voice. As for the rate, the speed at which a person speaks, and pauses is a momentary break in the vocal delivery of a speech. Continue to the vocal variety. So in a vocal variety, a speaker will changes the rate, the pitch, volume, and give the voice a variety to show the expressiveness or emotion to the speech. This is an example of one of the speaker using vocal variety in his speech.
As our University Marshal, Professor Dawson, escorts him forth, please join us in welcoming Mr. Sajid Shenoy, our student speaker for the 1996 exercises.
Thank you. Distinguished guests, faculty, staff, students, ladies and gentlemen, and most of all, the class of 1996. I can visualize the scene again and again. 11:30 p.m. Saturday night, the 15th of August 1992, Bombay International Airport, India. I was leaving home for the University of Richmond, and as I said that final goodbye to my parents, my family, and my friends, and as I saw hope, expectation, even a tinge of sadness in their eyes, and as I stepped aboard the Boeing 747 in front, I knew my life had changed forever. The next 36 hours on board the aircraft were a time of questions, of concerns, of tremendous uncertainty. Had I made the right choice in leaving my parents, my family, my home? Had I made the right choice in leaving my country, my culture, my background? Had I made the right choice in choosing the University of Richmond? And then, of course, there was that one nagging question, that one overriding concern. As one of only 3 Indian students on a Richmond campus of 3,000, would I ever fit in? My country was different, my culture was different, my experiences were different, my background was different, my language was different, my accent was different. Would I ever fit in? And so here I was, high above the clouds, grappling with these questions of culture, of interaction, of ethnicity. And what I didn't know was that 30,000 feet below on the ground, the world was faced with these very questions. The question of culture, the question of interaction. And so whether my aircraft took off from Bombay, where the Hindus and the Muslims lived together in a most fragile peace, or whether my aircraft was over Africa, where the Hutus and Tutsis of Rwanda and Burundi had this long-standing animosity, or whether my aircraft was over Bosnia, where the Serbs, the Croats, the Muslims and the Bosnians had broken yet another truce. The question was the same. Could different cultures ever come together to reinforce one another? Ladies and gentlemen, 4 years after that bumpy aircraft ride, this young Indian student had found his answer. He had been witness to the 4 most spectacular years of his life. The academics were great, the extracurriculars were great, his graduate school plans were great. But what left an indelible mark on his mind was none of this. Not the GPA, not Stanford, no. Instead, it were those special moments. Those moments of human interaction, those human relationships that can never quite be translated into words. The time this young Indian student spent his first Thanksgiving dinner with his debate team coach. That Thanksgiving evening when I had my first American turkey and saw my first American football game, not knowing the difference between a tackle and a touchdown.
Alright, so you can see that speaker using a lot of speech variations, and then volume will be changes, some of the expressive, the rate from slow to fast, and then fast to slow, depends on the situation. So this is how a speaker will make the speech more interesting to be heard. So I hope that after this you will learn how to use a vocal variety and instill it in your speech. So we move on to the pronunciation, the accepted standard of the sound and rhythm for the words in a given language. As you can see the word here, it is a common word that people have a common error in pronouncing it. For example, in this word, some people commonly common in pronounce it wrongly is genuine. Okay, and then in this word, some people have a common error of pronounce it as artic, and then nuclear for this word and a for this word. So we have to correct the pronunciations. So in this word we will pronounce as genuine, genuine, arctic, nuclear, okay, and so this is how it will pronounce for these 4 common words. And the next is on the speaker voice, also will similar with pronunciation, but this is articulation, where a physical production of particular speech sounds have been let out from your mouth. And then if you say the S in this word, if you articulate it as Illinois with S, that is wrong. So you have to pronounce it, you have to articulate it as Illinois without the sound of S, or the P in pneumonia without the sound of P. Word out to, or sometimes misarticulate as ota, didn't as didn't, don't know as do know. As for the dialect, a variety of a language distinguished by variations of accents, grammar, or vocabulary. So we move to the speaker's body. Before this, we were talking about voice. So now we are talking on the speaker's body. So speaker's bodies are evolved of posture, facial expression, gestures, and eye contact. This is all affects the way of listener respond to a speaker. So we will cover one by one of these 4 elements. Personal appearance. Listener always see you before they hear you. Just as you adapt your language to the audience and the occasion, you should dress and groom appropriately and follow according to the occasion that have been said. As for the movement, when you have been called up to give a speech, you have to appear calm. Try to appear calm, poised, and confident at your podium. Do not lean on your lectern and don't rush into making your speech. Gesture. Motion of speaker's hands or arms during a speech. So you see, while we're lecturers, when we are explaining things, sometimes we have moved our hand and our arms. And any other of a speaker, you can have your experience watching them while they're giving their speech. They have this normally a gesture moving your hand. Think about communicating with your listener, and your gesture will take care of themselves. This is spontaneous, so you as a speaker, when you do your public speaking, you don't have to overthink on how you want to present your hand looks like, or how you want to put your hands. You don't have to think how you should stand, and you have just to be normally feel yourself. Just act it as a routine where you talk with your friends. Just try to imagine that you have a normal conversation with your teammates, your members, or your parents while you do for a speech. So this is one of the example. As you can see, there's a lot of gestures have been
What does the term third culture kid mean? According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, third culture kid is defined as a child who grows up in a culture different from in which his or her parents grew up. In the modern world, with numerous means of travel and transportation, we may have lived or traveled to countries that may or may not represent our passport. I also read on the Telegraph, which is called the 10 biggest struggle for a third culture kid. And what caught my eye was the first biggest struggle, answering the question, where are you from? And the third biggest struggle, mixing up your languages. Because I'm a third culture kid and have faced those struggles multiple times. Throughout my life, I lived in 3 continents,
So you
Asia,
can see
North America, and Europe.
the speaker
I started my
has
primary
stand
education
firm,
here in
but a
Tokyo
bit
at a
of
local
movement
public school that I attended for a
and
year.
using his
and
hand by
moved abroad.
holding by the touching of the
Subsequent to
remote.
my long journey in the United States
And
and China,
also, it's just
I
a
returned to a
normal
public school that I used
way
to attend
of
back in
how
first
we
grade,
explain.
which all
But as a
happened in 5th
speaker,
grade.
please do not move
Although
your
many
body
people were
to the
genuinely
right
interested in
and
my
left
experiences
too
of living
much.
abroad,
This
or
will
knowing
be
more about my struggles
distracting
of being
mannerism
bilingual.
of your
There were
audience
multiple
rather
unpleasant
than them being
experiences that
focused
led
on
me
the
to
speech.
question whether my long
They
held
will be
identity truly
focused
defined
on
me.
your gestures.
Looking all the way back to first grade, I had already considered about my identity as
So in this video, as I mentioned, you can have a slightly move to the right, just a feel so that you can be comfortable throughout your speech. But as we are talking on the gestures of the hand is usually will be moved as it is sway. So because of this person, it might be look a bit nervous. He didn't realize that his hands have been moved quite often, and then you have to reduce the movement and just make it like steady as possible, and just being sensible when you do your movement while you do for your speech. Eye contact. Eye contact is a direct visual contact with the eyes of another person, because the eye is the window to our soul. It isn't enough just to look at your listener. It is how you look at them that also count. So when you're addressing a small audience, briefly look from one person to another. As for the larger group, scan the audience rather than try to engage the eyes of each person in the room. As we move all of the technique on the gestures or your voice, you will practice your delivery. So how to get practice your delivery? You have these few of the tips or the few of the steps that you can follow. First, you have to go through your preparation outline and read aloud to check how what you have written translate into spoken discourse. You have to check whether you need to have a long speech or you need to have a short speech. Number two, prepare your speaking outline. Make sure you use a visual framework. As you do it for your speech, you might use some of the visual aids in your speech, not only yourself and your words. You might be want to use a slide or any of the model or artifacts to visualize your topic. Number three, practice the speech aloud several times using only the speaking outline, and then concentrate on controlling your ideas. So based on the outline you have, you try to follow through parallel with your outline, one by one, with every topic that you have in your outline. So you have to start from introductions, and then you go to your first main point, follow to your conclusions. So this time you don't have to memorize, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to check on how this outline can be interchanged to the every point or every part of your outline. Polish and refine your delivery. Practice the speech in front of a mirror to check for eye contact and your distracting mannerisms. Check your speech volume, and of course don't forget to try practice with a teammate or with your parents or your siblings, because they will give you an immediate reconstructive comments on how to improve your speech. Finally, give your speech a dress rehearsal under condition as close as possible to those that you will face in the class or in the situations. For example, in our um, in our class, I will asking you to record yourself, so you have to do a lot of practice in front of your camera. Try to record it using your phone or any web recorder that you have, and then you try to recheck again. Check yourself, check on your eye contact, check on your gesture, check on your distracting mannerism. So this is how you do for your dress rehearsal. Before this, if you are in the face-to-face class sessions, you might be want to do some dress rehearsal at the close condition with the same one that you will be expecting in the class. For example, if I said that you're gonna have your presentation in a hall, so you try to find a time when there is no one in there. You practice it yourself with your friends, or you can just practice with yourself and you record yourself of how you're doing inside the hall. On this last slide, this is the last part, answering audience questions. A speaker who handles question well can strengthen the impact of his or her speech. So before you do your speech or you deliver your speech, you have to think ahead of the question that will be possibly being asked during your presentation or during your speech. And then you have to practice how you're going to answer that or how you're going to deliver your answer. And during the speech time, please approach your question with your positive attitudes. Do not the dismissals of persons that want to ask a question to you, because the questions is actually posed that they are interesting with your topic. Listen carefully to what they are trying to ask you or what they are trying to mean, and that you do not jump into a conclusion, and please wait until he or she end his questions. Direct answer to the entire audience, even though only one person are asking you, but you have to relate it to everyone in the room or in the hall. Be honest and straightforward with the answer you have, and of course you have to check with the time that you have during your presentation, because there will be a time limitations and you want to stay on track to avoid any delay in your speech presentations. So that's it. This is the end of chapter 6. So what you have learned, so in this topic you have learned of speech delivery is a matter of nonverbal communication, and then there are 4 basic methods of delivering a speech, which is reading from a manuscript, reciting a memorized text, speaking impromptu, and speaking extemporaneously. And you also have to work with controlling your volume, your pitch, rate, pause, vocal variety, pronunciation, articulations, and dialect. Also, you have to check with your gestures, your body, your personal appearance, your facial expressions, your eye contact, and of course, it is very important for you to groom or dress appropriately for certain occasion. The uses of gestures and bodily movement will enhance your message and will be give you expressive more towards the attention to the audience. It will give the impact to the audience to get more interested to your speech. And please make an eye contact with your listener, because eye contact will be show that you are conveying your what we call sincerity in your speech. You should also practice all these aspects of delivery along with the words of your speech. And of course, you need to anticipate your last of your speech presentation. There will be a question and answer session. So you have to welcome any question that will be posed to you, and please answer the questions in honest and straightforward as possible. So that's it for chapter 6, and I hope that when you have learned this on delivery, you will have some ideas of how to deliver your public speaking in an appropriate method, and then appropriate of how you use your voice, and what is the manners that you have to taking care of on the gestures, on your movement, also on your what we call eye contact. And I hope that you also will be doing a tremendous speech in our presentations later on. That's it for it now, and I I wish you all the best for your preparations, and I see you in the next class. Thank you.